Nintendo Gameplay. This is Robin. How may I help you?
They're called game counselors, and they go through a grueling training program that lasts about 8 weeks and involves knowing pretty much everything there is to know about every game.
The Nintendo Power Line, not to be confused with the Nintendo Power Glove or the Nintendo Power Magazine, was a special retro tips and tricks hotline service that was popular in the mid-80s to late 90s and existed right up until June 2010 due to the internet becoming more widespread. Imagine it's the 80s and you're stuck on a challenge in a video game. You don't have a computer to check a walkthrough and none of your friends beat the game. The Nintendo Power Line was a service made to fill in that gap. The hotline was made available Monday through Saturday and all the way from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and customers could call the certified Nintendo counselors who would provide them with hints and tips to some of their favorite NES titles. And I was lucky enough to have a computer in the house since the time I was born. And at the time, the service was never really relevant to me, mainly because the category of games that I had were mostly PlayStation games. And the few Nintendo games I did possess weren't so difficult that I couldn't eventually figure out how to progress through the games on my own, or simply find hints online. I grew up in a time that this fad was beginning to become less relevant, but the Nintendo Power Line was born in an age where a lot of households had limited access to personal computers, and the most common way to gain access to hints were through magazines and, if you're lucky, having a friend that already knew the answers to said puzzles. The service was extremely fruitful throughout this time of limited information, and in the early 90s, the Nintendo Power Line had received approximately 42 million calls from gamers young and old. So who were these heroes of the Nintendo Power Line? The Power Line had hundreds of different part-time counselors working at the center who all underwent an 8-week training program with their only requirements being to have good communication skills and some love and basic knowledge of games. New employees were even gifted special Nintendo jackets. The Nintendo Power Line office contained a library of over 6,000 games, including an online database which contained additional information, and each of the physical documents contained hand-drawn, photocopied walkthroughs of many different NES titles. Research on several different games were split amongst the Nintendo counselors, and while they included some of the walkthroughs provided by the developers of each game, they often ended up filling in the missing gaps and adding in their own additional info and tips. It was their job to recreate maps from scratch and write up their own guides for games that didn't have ones available. The dedication required to figuring out the ins and outs of games is not only a time-consuming process, but back then a lot of Nintendo properties came straight from Japan. So you also have to think of the work these counselors put in to translate material when working on these walkthroughs. It was truly a staff of dedicated enthusiasts, and a lot of the counselors at the time cited the job as feeling a lot more like a community of game enthusiasts coming together to share their knowledge of their favorite games.
Important for us to help these people out, get them through their game so they can get to the end of the game, beat it, go, all right, I beat it, now let's go out and get another game.
Even though the service closed down in 2010, many people still remember the Power Line with a fondness. And the service was even revived for a short period of time to celebrate the release of the NES Classic Edition in 2016. Vice even did a video segment on the NES Classic where they played games and caught up with one of the original Nintendo Power Line employees. You can find the link to that video in the description box below. Nowadays, paid services like this have more or less become obsolete. We now have so many online resources like Game FAQ and even YouTube providing us with visual aid on how to beat bosses or navigate through levels. But what made the Nintendo Power Line so special at the time was that it was one of the earliest instances of a group of video game enthusiasts coming together to master an array of different games. It was a workplace for gamers to come together in a shared space where they could work on full detailed walkthroughs and guides and share this knowledge with other fans to enhance their own playing experience. If I was a teenager in the 80s, I definitely would have tried to apply to this part-time position. The Power Line definitely played a part in the evolution of the shared experience that we're all so accustomed to today, as there's now so many online resources and websites made for fans and created by fans who work in groups to make sure that gamers are in the know about their favorite games, whether it be sharing data-mined information on hidden and unused assets, or even simply learning more about a game's development behind the scenes. And these websites only continue to grow because they have such dedicated communities of people who take time out of their busy schedules to get said information to the masses. And you'll find that instead of being paid to find this information, a lot of these fans create these websites out of their own passion for the game. And that dedication to a passion project just from a shared love of gaming is all kinds of wonderful. Hey everyone, if you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And if you'd like to support the show for just $1, you can pledge to my Patreon and join the special Bob Dunga Discord where we can talk about games and upcoming episodes. Until my next video, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
Games counselors are a walk of just about any type of life, but you definitely have to have a love for video games and, of course, the dexterity to be able to play those games as well. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.